Fallout Equestria Survivors Guild, Chapter 14, Part 3. Anyways, I woke up the next morning in the holding cell to the sound of the cell door opening. I opened my eyes to see a guard dressed in head-to-tail armor like that Rain Runner wore, only with a helmet instead.
I'm guessing you're part of the plan?
I said as I got to my hooves.
Indeed.
The pony said as they removed the armor and gave it to me before shifting into a perfect copy of me.
Be careful. I don't want anything happening to you just because you look like me.
I said as I slipped into the armor. It fit a little snug, but it would at least keep me covered until I got out of town.
Your friends are waiting for you outside of town on the west side down the new road.
The changeling said as she laid down onto the bed like I had been.
Hurry. You've only got 10 minutes before the window closes. Your mare friend is keeping an eye on your stuff. She's not my... Never mind. I don't have time for this.
I said as I headed out of the holding area past the ponies outside. A few of them gave me nods and I nodded back before heading out. There's one advantage to being dressed in ranger armor. You don't exactly stand out in NCR territory. The armor was admittedly a little uncomfortable, but that was probably just because it wasn't my size. I headed along the main road out of town as I went past more ponies. They were worried, I could tell that much just from their body language, and I didn't really blame them. The Enclave was on the verge of victory, and they had no idea that their only hope for a future outside of Enclave control was in the hooves of a pony they had every right to hate. I just kept walking as I left town and headed for the place I was told to go. I found my friends waiting for me like the changeling had promised. It was just the three of us again, and I gave them all a nod.
It's good to have you back, Scootaloo.
Mark said as I removed the armor and replaced it with my usual outfit and battle saddle.
You know, maybe you should give that a name.
Cherry commented as I fit my 2 energy rifles into my saddle.
Something that fits them and who you are, I mean. Maybe.
I said thoughtfully as I looked at the 2 weapons. They had once been used as weapons by the Enclave, but now they were going to be used to stop them. I smiled and I patted them.
Freedom and liberty. A bit on the nose, but we don't have time to talk about this.
Ark said as she nodded to a vertibuck that was resting on the ground.
That's our right at Manhattan, or at least the edge of it. How are we gonna avoid the Enclave's attention? That's the beauty of this.
A mare's voice said, and I looked up to see the pilot, a Pegasus mare who gave us a nod.
This baby was an experimental vertibuck being developed by Enclave R&D to adapt stealthbuck technology into it. When we got close to Manhattan, we turned on the stealth field, and we can land without drawing any attention. Well, that'll work,
I said as we climbed into the vertibuck.
We've got a long way to go before all of this is over, but we can do it.
Cherry and Ark nodded as the pilot got into the cockpit and started to take off. We looked down at Junction Town up in the distance as it left our view. I just hoped that we'd be able to save it.
My dear Equestria, victory is nigh. As we speak, the NCR Senate is in the middle of deliberations to decide how to proceed.
Winter Breeze's voice said over the radio. She was using DJ Punthree's broadcast technology to speak every so often.
The future of Equestria could not be in better hooves. I just hope that this little squabble will end soon and we'll be able to pioneer a new path for the...
I shut off the radio and shook my head.
So, what's the plan when we land? There's a settlement near where we're being dropped down that we're gonna head to first to stock up on supplies.
Ark said with a nod.
From there, we're gonna head south through the city until we can get access to Ten Pony Tower. We're to expect a lot of resistance along the way. It sounds like the Enclave has put the entire city under martial law,
Cherry said.
The refugees that we talked to said that they barely escaped before the Enclave closed off all major entrances onto the Manhattan Island. So, we'll have to go through one of the minor ones. The Enclave can't cover everything,
I said with a nod.
We'll figure it out,
Ark said.
Hopefully, there'll be somewhere that we can enter the city from.
I looked at her for a long moment. Manhattan was where Stable 66 was, and I had to wonder if it was going to be easy for her to return to the city. We hadn't been there since we had left the city to head to New Orleans, and that was just over a year ago. A year. I couldn't believe that I'd only been out here for a year at this point. It felt like a decade with the Enclave attacks, and now here we were, flying into another war zone so we could stop the Enclave. I wondered how much longer I'd be able to keep this up.
Stable 66 is in Manhattan, right, Ark?
Cherry asked as she looked at the unicorn mare curiously.
Yeah, it is.
Ark said as she fidgeted with her pipbuck for a moment.
It's also not far from our route through the city, if we can make it into it at least.
We had a week to make our way into 10 Pony Tower, which I didn't doubt we'd be able to pull it off. I wasn't really sure if we should risk a detour to Stable 66. Then again, Ark hasn't seen her home in so long that maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Do you want to go back there?
I asked Ark, who looked at me for a long moment as if she was trying to figure out what to say.
It's okay if you do. We can spare the time. Maybe. Only if it wouldn't change our plans in any other major way.
Ark said with a nod.
Ark, my mom was a soldier. She once told me a little saying they have in the military.
I said with a chuckle.
No plan ever survives first contact with the enemy. We don't know what's waiting for us in Manhattan, and we might have to adapt as we go. So, don't worry about it. Your mom sounds like a smart pony.
Cherry said with a smile.
She certainly had her moments. I just wish that she was here to help us right now.
I said with a sigh, as I looked at the ruins of Manhattan in the distance.
I spent my fullhood wanting to be like her. To be the best pony I could be, and to help Equestria. I'd say that you succeeded.
Ark said with a smile, and she put a hoof on my shoulder.
You're a good pony, Scootaloo, and you're gonna keep doing everything you can to make Equestria safe. Yeah.
I said with a smile as I gave them both a nod. I just hoped that I was doing the right thing. That was always the question, wasn't it? Was I doing the right thing? Even when I had to do the wrong thing, it always felt like it was for the greater good. That's what it meant to be, like a pony like me. To be the villain of this piece. It was all worth it in the end, wasn't it? Lives were saved, ponies kept on living, our species continued to exist against all the odds. Surviving wasn't enough, though. We'd have to do more with ourselves than just survive. The NCR served as the best chance at being able to do that. But even it wasn't perfect. I still had a lot to learn about the politics of the nation, but I could see that things weren't easy for them. I thought back to Applebloom and Sparky. They were just ponies trying to live their lives in their homes. We hadn't brought the war to them, but what if we had? What if the Enclave had attacked us then? No, I couldn't dwell on it anymore. They hadn't attacked us at Sweet Apple Acres, and hopefully the war would never come there.
Okay, back there. Time to go Saiyan while the stealth system does its job.
The voice of the pilot said from the cockpit. A light humming sound started up, and I didn't see any noticeable change in the vertibuck, but I guess it worked. I was impressed, and I couldn't help but appreciate the irony. This was a piece of Enclave technology that we were using in order to sneak into their preoccupied territory. I just hoped that it would be enough. The vertibuck landed onto the other side of the river from the city in the middle of a group of buildings that hid us from the city's line of sight. We climbed out of the vertibuck and were soon joined by the pilot, who went into one of the buildings and opened up the door to a basement.
Okay, this is your best bet of getting into the city from here,
she said, and she led us down into the basement. I was a bit surprised to find an excavated tunnel that sloped downwards.
It's a smuggling tunnel from during the war,
I said with a chuckle.
I thought the Ministry of Morale sealed all these up. They did. We came across it and unsealed it. It leads right into the city near the settlement at Hoofston.
The pilot said with a nod as we turned on our lights.
So, I'm afraid this is as far as I can go, but I hope you succeed. We're all counting on you. But hey, no pressure, right?
Ark said with a chuckle as we started into the tunnel, waving goodbye to the pilot as she headed back to her craft. We walked for a little in silence, and, well, there wasn't really much to talk about at this point, given what we were about to walk into. I could only imagine what was waiting for us in the city itself. The fact of the matter was that none of us were really ready for this kind of warfare on our own. But we didn't really have much of a choice. Maybe it was true that heroes didn't really choose to be heroes. Instead, we were chosen. I looked up at the ceiling above us, and it looked like it had been dug out centuries before. This was definitely an old tunnel. Cherry shrieked as she stumbled over something and found herself muzzle to muzzle with a skeleton. She backed away quickly and hugged me, breathing heavily.
It's okay, it's okay. You're okay.
I said reassuringly as I put a wing around the mare, trying to calm her down.
It's just a skeleton. It's just a skeleton. I know, sorry. It just surprised me.
Cherry said, calming down a little as we examined the skeleton. It was dressed in old, tattered clothing, but there was something eerily familiar about them. I picked up a faded piece of paper. I could just barely make out the writing on it, and it took me a moment to realize that it wasn't Equestrian. The writing was made up of some strange runic symbols that I had only seen once before.
Zebras.
I said quietly, as if the ghosts of the dead zebras could have heard me and bring their wrath onto us for disturbing their resting place.
The zebras must have used this tunnel during the war to enter the city. Ah, this isn't helping at all,
Cherry said as she looked at the skeleton. I had to wonder if it was a zebra or a pony that had gotten in their way. Not that it really mattered, to be honest. They had been long dead. I put the paper in my bags. It was mostly just a curiosity, though I did recognize one thing on it. A logo from a company that I knew.
4 stars.
I said as we walked, which got a strange look from my friends.
Sorry. They were a company during the war that ran the trains here in Manhattan. According to the Book of Little Pip, they were traders who allowed the zebras into the city. So, you're thinking that whoever was in here was heading to meet with 4 stars?
Ark asked.
Just a theory, at least. It's hard to prove, I admit.
I said with a shrug.
Really, I'm not an expert on zebras. Maybe Zariah will be able to help if we can rescue her from the Enclave. Why 4 stars anyway?
Cherry asked.
The name, I mean. You know, I'm actually not too sure. I seem to recall hearing something about the zebras regarding 4 stars as being evil for some reason.
I said with a shrug.
I guess they kinda just latched onto that for the name. It might be nothing really, just a curiosity. You never know. Maybe it's the orders to evacuate the city before the bombs went off.
Ark said.
Not that it did them much good.
I said with a shrug, but she did have a point. I just hoped that some pony would be able to at least solve this mystery. The rest of the trip went uneventfully. There wasn't really any more dead bodies found along the area, and it looked mostly intact. Something about this was weird, though. It felt almost like we were disturbing some pony's resting place. We froze a little when we heard a growling sound ahead of us, as ghouls came into view. They charged at all of us at once, as we leveled our rifles at the undead ponies and opened fire, gunning them down as they got closer.
Why does it always have to be ghouls?
Ark said with a groan as we walked forward towards the other end of the tunnel when another ghoul came into view, but this one wasn't attacking us.
Diamonds? Oh, you've gotta be kidding me.
I said with a groan as I motioned for my friends to lower their glasses as we saw who it was. It was an earth pony mare with rotting gray fur and a pair of glasses that looked like they were stuck to her face. It was Silver Spoon.